Ladies and gentlemen, we have breaking news for Rise of Kingdoms coming from the in-person event over in Amsterdam, which is currently taking place at the time of me recording this. And as you can see, they've announced a ton of really cool things, including a special KvK key story featuring I suppose the fall of Troy. As you can see here, this looks like the Trojan horse involved in that battle. We have new commanders and a ton of more information that we're going to cover in today's video. But first, what's going on, guys? Cheers. First things first, shout out to Plato Gaming for streaming this over on YouTube. At the time of recording this, he is still live, so go ahead and make sure you subscribe to him. I'm gonna link his channel in the description below. I'm sure many of you already know him. He is a well-known and loved content creator here for Rise of Kingdoms. And I also have to shout out Ube over on my Discord, who actually let me know that this was going on live. He sent me these screenshots, so huge shout out to you. As you can tell, I was literally at Starbucks when this happened, and I walked home to film this video for you guys, so cheers. And of course, finally, I am a partnered creator with Rise of Kingdoms, which means they support a few videos on the channel every single month, just like this one. But the most important support comes from you guys dropping a thumbs up down below for the breaking news, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. But let's jump right in here. Of course, as you know, as I've shown already, there is a brand new key story coming to Rise of Kingdoms. Now, last year the key story was the King of All Britain event, and this was the story that brought us Ragnar Prime, and so I wish I could say that that gave us a lot of clues as to who these commanders are, or I should say what their troop type is going to be. But one thing is for sure, these two commanders are clearly these two commanders right here. You can see this gentleman has some horns coming off of his helmet, which you can of course see right over here, and this gentleman has this sort of sword that he's holding up against his body, which looks like the exact same shape as this sword. Of course, I can't confirm this, but it does seem to be the case that these two commanders are the same ones in this screenshot, and this is the Song of Troy special KvK story. So we can assume that this is of course going to focus around the battle for Troy, the fall of Troy, as we see, like I said before, the Trojan horse right in the middle here. So I suspect that this KvK story will focus around a map that involves the city of Troy and the fall of Troy. And so who could these commanders actually be, and are these the upcoming cavalry commanders that we have been waiting for? And the answer, I think, is maybe, but maybe not. I'm actually really confused here, because my assumption is that these two commanders are actually special KvK commanders, just like Ragnar Prime, because you can see them in the promotional material right here, and they were revealed alongside the key story. Now, last year of course we saw just Ragnar Prime, which I thought was a bit bizarre. Having only one special commander for a KvK story that features two sides is a little bit weird. So maybe they've gone ahead and resolved that sort of illogical setup there by saying, okay, both sides get a special commander, right, at least in lore. Or what they could do is say, hey, look, you know, we don't need an additional commander outside of the release cycle. Let's just incorporate the upcoming cavalry cycle into this KvK story, and maybe they will have special buffs during the story. It's actually, I think, too early to say, and of course maybe Plato has some more information about this because he was actually there at this event, and I'm sure he will make a recap video or talk about it on one of his live streams. Of course, many other people are also at this event who can probably chime in with a little bit more information. My suspicion is that these are two special KvK commanders similar to Ragnar Prime, which is a little bit bizarre because that's just so many commanders that, I mean, we have been getting so many commanders lately. We got the season 2 siege commanders, right, the season 2 engineering commanders, then we saw the leadership commander Matthias, and we saw the actual ranged release for which is Alfonso, and then we just got two new legendary gathering commanders, right, which we don't know how we're gonna get them. We suspect gold keys, maybe daily special offer, and now we're getting two new commanders. And if these two commanders are not the cavalry commanders, then that means we're expecting two more commanders by the end of the year. So between the launch of the season 2 ranged commanders and the end of the year, we're gonna get 9 commanders in like 4 months. That's crazy. Now of course most of those people are going to skip, and a lot of them are not part of the release window. But all that to say, it would be kind of nuts if we got two new commanders that are, you know, a similar power level to Ragnar Prime, and then we got the cav release after, right? So really nuts stuff here. And by the way, I mentioned in a couple of videos ago that you should be expecting a lot of new commanders between then and the end of the year, and it looks like I was spot on. And not only that, but there's even more commanders coming that that I even anticipated a few videos ago. So if you guys want breaking news and the best possible future proofing advice for your account here in Rise of Kingdoms, you definitely want to subscribe, because I called it, man. I knew that we were about to see a ton of new commanders come into the game, and this seems to be right. So either, just to clear all of that up, these are either 2 new commanders for the KvK story, most likely that's the case, or they've just tied in the cavalry release with this KvK story. I think that would make the most sense from like a, hey, how many sculptures do you even have to spend at this point perspective, but we'll have to wait and see for more information. The next thing that was shared with me, and this is really horrible frame rate, but this is the sort of special effect of the upcoming Zenith of Power that has the 16% universal troop attack. Here you can also see the special effect for the avatar plate. This, I think this looks really, really cool. I think this looks fantastic. The fact that it turns into gold dust that sort of swirls around the city, I think that looks really, really cool. Overall, this is an absolutely gorgeous city skin in my opinion, but 60 million power to guaranteed get it is insane. And I know that there's been a lot of people upset about the change to Zenith of Power, and I probably will still make a video covering that, but I do want to remind you guys that you do not have to train 60 million power to get the Zenith of Power skin. Okay, let me just be abundantly clear. That is the way that you can guaranteed get it, but most Zenith of Powers that I've ever seen, almost nobody trains 60 million power for a skin. Like, that is really high. So realistically, if no one's going to train 60 million, then really it's just going to be the top 10 that get it anyway, which is going to be how it's always been forever. Now, again, I'll still make a video covering this topic, but just wanted a quick TLDR because I feel like a lot of people are confused about the upcoming changes to Zenith, but either way, I think this looks absolutely gorgeous. Next up, we have a kingdom management privilege optimization. This says the rogue players in the kingdom are mainly those who refuse to follow kingdom management. The management hopes to find ways to restrict or banish them, for example, reckless point rushing in Mightiest Governor event, blocking flag routes, or farm killing. And so here we can see, and I know this is a very blocky and blurry screenshot here. I think Plato had pretty bad internet or cell phone service while he was streaming, but it says the king can use a king skill, and then the governors with negative kingdom titles will not be able to enter the lost kingdom, I guess. I suspect that that's how this is going to go. So obviously, you know, without the context of whatever they said while they were showing the screenshot, I'm only guessing here, but it seems to be the case. If the king wants, they can prevent certain governors from entering the lost kingdom, which I think is probably a good thing for the game. Next up, it was revealed that there's going to be a resource trading hub here, which is kind of crazy. This is actually going to be a way, and again, this is a very blurry screenshot, so I really can't say for sure, but it looks like there is some sort of universal currency here that you get for maybe buying and selling these currencies or these resources in the game, right? You can see up in the top right, there is a sort of currency that you get here. There's a transaction record as well. So I guess that you can sort of donate a certain amount of these resources to get that currency, and then you can spend that currency to get whatever other resource it is that you want. So if you have too much stone on your account, then you can use your stone to get all this currency and then trade that currency in for maybe food or gold or something like that. I don't have any specifics beyond that, beyond what you literally see right here, but this is definitely a really interesting way to go about this. I think obviously we already have a way to send resources to another governor in the game. There is of course a sort of tax or a penalty on that. The tax rate is currently 8% for the transportation capacity here. I'm not sure how this is exactly going to work, if it's going to be the case that, you know, is this a kingdom trading hub or maybe an alliance trading hub, or like how is this going to work? Is it server wide? I have no idea. Maybe it's continent wide, which would be kind of insane, but yeah, it looks like there's going to be a new way to directly trade resources between governors, and I'm not sure what problem this solves, because like it's not gonna, I don't know, I don't want to speculate too much on what problem this could be solving, or if this is purely just a quality of life thing. But either way, I think anything that makes it easier for real players to trade resources with one another, that's probably a good thing, especially in war, especially if you are, you know, this could be one of the ways where free-to-play players can really support their kingdom and alliance in ways that maybe the whales don't have enough time to do, right? I think that's usually what we see in games like Rise of Kingdoms, is that the way that free-to-play players contribute is different because they don't spend as much money, they don't have, you know, all the perfect armaments and perfect commanders and perfect everything, but they might have time to spend on the game, and maybe they do have a lot of extra resources that they can use to support those that fight a lot more in the kingdom. And so maybe this is going to be a way that they can you know, support a little bit during KvK as well. I don't know, again, I'm speculating on this stuff here, but all in all, this seems like at first glance, and again, I don't have the full picture here, I don't know, but it seems like this would be a good thing for the game. But you guys can let me know if there's anything about this that I'm missing in the comment section below. Two more pieces of information that I do not have screenshots of, but were allegedly confirmed during Plato's live stream. First of all, there's going to be a new siege civilization. So if you are a ranged player, you could finally have your own civilization to give you the buffs that you need to do what you want to do in Rise of Kingdoms. So we don't know when this is coming. I suspect the soonest that we would see a new civilization is in January, somewhere around the same time that the Mayans launched at the beginning of this year, or they might push it towards summer of 2026, which is historically the time that they usually release new civilizations. If you guys don't know, ever since the Vikings came into the game, they've released a new civ every single summer until the Mayans. And I think the reason that they did not put the Mayans in during the summer is because that's when they were doing the massive graphical overhaul. And I don't know if maybe they couldn't line it up properly. I'm not sure. Maybe they were playing around with a different release window, different marketing window. I don't know. Usually there's a big marketing push with new civilizations, but either we're going to see a new civ at the beginning of next year or during the summer of next year. That's my best guess. I could be completely wrong about that. So new siege civ confirmed. And then the other thing we have to touch on here is that a boss battle is being added to Ark of Osiris, which is actually kind of interesting. Now, of course, I do not play Ark of Osiris. I haven't played it since back when it first came out. My schedule for the weekends has never really lined up super well with Ark of Osiris, and my kingdom is highly competitive, and there's already a ton of really good players in my kingdom who play that. But depending on how this is going to work, this could completely change everybody's strategy in Ark of Osiris, depending on when it spawns, how often it spawns, and what is the outcome of defeating this boss. Really gonna shake up the meta there. I'm curious to know how that's going to go. This looks absolutely insane. This dude looks so sick. So the boss spawn zones are actually off on the sides here, so you actually have to go out of your way if you want to go to the boss spawn zones, and hopefully the rewards are going to be worth it. It looks like it has 1 million troops, perhaps, unless that's measuring something else, but I don't know what the rewards are actually going to be. And I suspect that all the information that we talked about in this video is probably going to show up on the official Rise of Kingdoms YouTube channel very soon. I can't imagine that it wouldn't, but I wanted to get this video out as soon as possible so you guys know what is coming down the pipeline. As I am recording this video, more information is coming out, and this is a screenshot that I found over on the King's Codex Discord, so definitely shout out to them for having a lot of this up-to-date information as soon as possible. Here, this screenshot says governors hope that the link between city themes, civilizations, and attributes can be separated, allowing more freedom to choose their preferred civilization and attributes. So here you could see, of course, some people might want to play as, you know, ancient Greece because maybe they are Greek and they feel pride about that, or they want to play as France or China or whatever the case might be. Maybe they just like the theme of ancient Egypt or ancient the Viking civilization, but they want the skill damage from Ottoman Empire, or they want the march speed from Rome, right? So there's a lot of different reasons why players might want to do this, and of course these are micro optimizations, so really I don't think it would change the game that much to give players this freedom. But there is also the counter argument that there should be a little bit of lore and theme to these civilizations, and if you break them up, then what's the point in even choosing to begin with, right? So I don't know how I feel about this. I guess I don't really feel that passionate about it either way, and I also don't know what they said about this, right? This is really just them addressing a concern. I don't know what their actual response was here, if they're going to do this or if they're not going to do this. Here's a better picture of what I showed earlier, just in case you were wondering, if you couldn't read it because it was so blurry. Here we see an upgraded combat experience, easier intuitive controls. They have updated attack march. Now I have heard that the new upgraded attack march is going to be much better than the current attack march, but I've heard that it will not be as good as a skilled player actually playing, right? So I think the developers probably are trying to find that middle ground where they want it to be, you know, good enough to where you don't feel bad using it, but they also want to make it so that way players who choose not to use it can still get an advantage if they are skilled at micromanaging their marches, right? All in all, I think an upgraded attack march is a really interesting concept, and it's definitely, there's a nuanced discussion to be had there as to whether or not it's good or bad for the game. I think for casual players, I think this is probably a really good thing, but maybe maybe I'll talk about that in a full separate video. Here we can see a massive change to kill points, and kill points are not going away. So I want to be very clear here. Kill points, as you can see right here, still exist, but what we are now going to see on our profile is an acclaim system. So your total acclaim will be shown here, and then your highest acclaim, I guess, gotten for a single KvK perhaps, will be shown right next to that. Okay, and here you can see in every battle report you're going to get some number of acclaim. Now, one thing that I want to point out here is that the number of acclaim that you get is significantly lower than kill points, which I think is actually psychologically a very good thing when it comes to combating professional piloting. Now, I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of piloting too much, but I think one of the things that a lot of people also, they're using YSG with Attila. This must be some, I don't know what's going on here, but anyway, one of the things that players are sort of addicted to is bigger number equals better player, right? People like to just turn their brain off and just say, oh, the number's big, they must be a good player, right? Even though, no, like, you got to start asking questions about like, how'd you get them, how long ago did you get them, whatever, right? So there's a whole discussion to be had there. But if the number is a lot smaller, then it's like, at least the expectations aren't going to be like, oh, I need the hundreds of billions of kill points in order to, like, we're gonna rein those numbers into something a little bit more reasonable. And I think that that's overall a good thing, but I don't want to go too far into the psychology of that. Okay, maybe I'll talk about that some other time. Here you can see that they have adjusted the rewards for KvK to include acclaim. So here you can see you actually get a nice number of the conversion stones here, but also it looks like this is the faith achievement. And if we come in game, I'm currently in KvK, the faith achievement is the one that rewards you for kills. So instead of kills, the faith achievement is now going to be based on this new acclaim system. So what's shown in the picture is faith 6 and 7, which we can see this is what it currently is in game right now. So it looks like it's the same amount of rewards here. Yeah, it looks like the rewards are the same. So all they're doing is just changing how you get it. Same thing over here. Faith 9 is you're gonna get your token here. So notably, they don't show faith 5, which is the one that gives you a coin for your 30 million kills. Now, of course, I have no idea how acclaim is going to be calculated, like what numbers, how do we get at 3,646 acclaim, right? Like this, obviously it probably takes kill points into account. Maybe it takes your ratio, like your trade, into account, so that way the better you actually trade, the more acclaim you get. Maybe I'm really just hypothesizing here. If you debuff the enemy, maybe you're supporting the team and so you get some acclaim for that. I have no idea, but one thing I am pretty confident in is that the kill point system currently is not very good. I mean, it's just not a good way to determine if a player is good or not. Clearly the outcome of focusing on kill points has just been piloting, right? Like there's a direct correlation between those two things. And also, if you look at literally any other game, like let's use World of Warcraft for example, would you use the DPS meter to determine if your healer is doing really, really well? The answer is no. And you know, I'm not an end game WoW player, so I don't know if maybe there's some meters that actually calculate healing factors or something like that. I don't actually know. The point is, like, you don't judge how good a healer is based on how much damage they deal, because that's not the point of what they're doing, right? And so in the same way, if you bring a Philip to the battlefield, right, he's not going to be dealing as much damage as like Liu Che, for example, but he's got a really nice, you know, active skill buff, and things like, you know, Constantine, for example, has a really nice buff. So like there are ways to support the team. This was the big problem with Trajan, for example. There's ways to support out in the battlefield that aren't just kill points, and yet we had no way of determining if people, like, how do you factor that in? How do you like tell, like, oh, trust me leadership, I've been using support commanders, right? Like that, like, there's no way to know, right? And so I think if this is done correctly, I think acclaim could actually be a way better metric for determining if a player is actually good in the game, because it's going to be able to actually calculate a bunch of other things that are outside of kill points. Like I said, buffing your team, debuffing the enemy, slowing down and snaring the target. Like there's tons of different things that you can do on the battlefield that aren't exactly kill points that this could start to factor in. So all in all, hopefully we can learn a little bit more about the acclaim system soon, and again, hopefully that they've done a really good job at figuring out a much more accurate way to determine how good and valuable a player actually is on the battlefield, rather than just looking at bigger number equals better player, because that obviously hasn't worked very well historically. And by the way, that's not to say that kill points are useless. Obviously obviously kill points serve a role, and they're still going to be something that people focus on, obviously, right? I mean, this is a war game after all, so killing your enemy is like the whole point of the entire game, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say that they're useless, but again, they're not the best possible metric if you wanted to design a really good metric for figuring out who is the most valuable player on the battlefield. This screenshot shows new gameplay, new tools, new cosmetics, and new events. Very broad there. Maybe this was one of the first slides that they showed throughout the whole thing. Here we see the Elysian treasures. This is an event that they've already sort of talked about. I covered this in a video recently, but here we actually see it in person, which is actually really nice. And I don't know what is being shown off here. What the heck is this? Is this like a new cosmetic building, or is that your city hall? What am I looking at here? Is this a new civilization? What civ is this? No, it's the Mayan logo on the top. Okay, well, very weird stuff. I don't know what they're showing off with that screenshot. They also addressed professional piloting and bot farming here. I don't know what they actually said here because again, I was not there and I didn't catch the live stream at that point, but again, I'm sure content creators like Plata will be able to share what they heard and what the details are right here. Okay, now let's start some speculation on who the two commanders might be for the new Song of Troy KvK story. This is the fun part. Now, maybe they've already revealed who they are during this live stream or during this in-person event, and I'm gonna look like an absolute idiot here. So until they actually reveal who they are, or until that information gets told to me, I'm just gonna go ahead and guess here, okay? But first of all, we know that one of these dudes clearly has some horns on his helmet, right? There's clearly some horns here. So the first clue is like, okay, well, which Greeks used horns? And the answer, I guess, is the Mycenaean Greeks. We can use that as a clue for one of these heroes at least. Hector is definitely a contender here. We have King of Sparta, brother of Agamemnon, husband of Helen. We've got Menelaus himself, ladies and gentlemen. Looks like a Giga Chad, of course. And we also have Agamemnon here. And by the way, that is not what Agamemnon looks like. I know, I'm just joking, okay? But anyway, Agamemnon was the most powerful monarch on mainland Greece. He was also the king of the Mycenae, so that kind of lines up here with the horned helmets type deal, right? So I'm starting to think that maybe we've got our boy Agamemnon over here, perhaps, maybe, question mark. I know there's going to be some scholars in the comments below who know, like, they took one look at the screenshot and they're going to be like, actually, I know exactly who those people are. This is why you're wrong. Okay, that's fine. Let me know in the comments who these people actually are. I'm actually curious. Okay, we have Ajax the Lesser. We've got Odysseus. Okay, I don't know about that. Maybe Ajax the Greater. Okay, Giga Chad, he's better than everybody else. Got Achilles here as well. Now, Achilles is definitely a well-known historical figure that definitely seems like somebody who would be in Rise of Kingdoms. Of course, everyone knows the Achilles heel sort of story, but I know a lot of people always say like, oh, well, you know, he was like, wasn't he like brought down to the river of Styx and like dipped in immortality or something like that? And like a lot of people will point to that and say like, oh, well, that's obviously not historically accurate because of course that didn't actually happen. And it's like, I know, but like Gilgamesh isn't, I mean, Gilgamesh was real, wasn't he? But he's not like a third god or something like that. I don't like, there's definitely myths surrounding heroes that are already in Rise of Kingdoms. So looking at one inaccuracy and one thing that's like, oh, technically that's not real, technically that's impossible, it's like, okay, that doesn't mean that they can't be in Rise of Kingdoms, right? Like, let's be honest here. I mean, Lapu Lapu has a lot of mythology surrounding him as well. Like all of these ancient figureheads have some, you know, type of mythical aspect of them that actually that's impossible. You can't be kind of a god. All that to say that, I mean, like we could totally have Achilles in the game and it would be totally fine. Like there'd be no problem with that at all. But either way, my top contenders here I think are Hector, Menelaus, Agamemnon, Achilles, or Ajax. I think those are like the most likely to be featured here in this screenshot. I actually have no idea the answer here, so if you guys have better guesses, let me know in the comment section below. And then the real question is like, what's the troop type? And that is anybody's guess. Of course, if the upcoming cavalry release is tied in here, then they would be cavalry. These two gentlemen are not riding horses, and if we're being honest, these look more like they would be infantry commanders, or maybe they would be leadership commanders. Certainly not archers. Nothing about this screams archer. So I mean, this looks sort of like a lance, so maybe it could be cavalry, infantry, whatever, or they're just leadership. Or, you know, like we saw with Ragnar Prime, he was an infantry commander who in the KvK gave stats to all troop types if he had his special special artifact equipped as a secondary. I think it's a secondary, maybe primary as well, I don't know, but either way that could be the case here as well. Personally, I'm hoping, you know, I hope that this is either tied into the cav release, which it doesn't look like it because this dude clearly does not look cavalry, but I guess, you know, neither does Genghis Khan. But either way, if that's not the case, then I hope that they are leadership commanders, or maybe one of them is cavalry, one of them is infantry perhaps. I think that would be really, really cool. All in all, I'm excited to see what they are. I've got plenty of gold sculptures saved up personally. I know that's a little bit self-serving, but I'm excited to see that. And could one of them be a prime version of a commander, just like we saw with Ragnar Prime? I don't know. If you guys know a commander that's already in Rise of Kingdoms that was present at the Battle of Troy, let me know. Like, when was Barco around? Oh, I just googled it. Those timelines don't line up at all. So okay, I don't know, but these to me look like two new commanders. We'll have to wait and see when they actually get revealed. But guys, that is all the information I have for you guys today. I want to shout out once again Plato for streaming this, so all of us have this information. I also want to shout out Ube for letting me know over on Discord once again, and shout out to the King's Codex for a lot of the pictures that we shared here in this video. If you made it all the way to the end of the video, drop a thumbs up on it. It really helps out the channel a ton. It helps beat the YouTube algorithm, and consider subscribing to the channel and clicking the bell to be notified the next time I upload breaking news for Rise of Kingdoms if you don't want to miss it. And comment down below your thoughts on everything here. Give me your best guesses on who these new commanders are going to be and what are their troop types going to be. Let me know down below. And with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching. This has been Omniarch. I'll talk to you guys again soon. Peace.